All right, I'm gonna quickly show our accounts that may need to send us lenses to the lab for reference for like a pattern, sizing, um, axis, circumference, instead of sending us the frame for tracing. We recently received some lenses that didn't have a 180 on the lens, basically meaning when we got the lenses, we could, of course, cut the shape, but we didn't know if it needed to be more cat eye or more nasal up, so that when you got the lens, if it was a progressive, the bifocal might be rotated wrong, or if it had any sort of astigmatism, it might be rotated outside of ANSI standards when you went to snap that lens in. So very important to get that 180 mark on the lenses before you send it to the lab. A couple of ways you can go about it. I'm going to show you two different ways. First is you can purchase these little blocks that hold the pin, and it makes it very simple to do a 180 mark by dragging it across the frame. There's also another technique I'm going to show you by holding the pin on the side of a desk. And we also will talk about measuring briefly. So let's go ahead and use this xyle frame here, and I'll use the block at first that holds the pin for you. This allows you to, we'll take the cap off. You simply just hold the frame in place so it doesn't wiggle around on you, and you just drag this across. And of course, making sure the frame's making contact on the front here. You don't want to, hold it where one's rotated up, because that's not going to give you a good axis. So as simple as that, just dragging this across the lens gives you a 180. The next thing that you're going to want to do before you send it to the lab is immediately mark the nasal with an N, because especially those very round frames where the nasal could honestly be either side, we need to know which one is which so we can tell what eye we're looking at. The next way to take a 180, if you don't have one of these little blocks, is you'll grab your AR pin. Again, very important if you don't have any of these. This is a 319F Stadler, I believe it's pronounced. These will allow you to mark up on anti-reflective coated lenses. The other technique is you hold the pin on the edge of a table so that you hold it really nice and steady. And you don't want to vary the depth at all of this pin at all. And we're not going to drag it across the desk because it's very easy to get a crooked 180 line. Instead, you're going to hold this steady, hold the same height, and instead pull the frame across the pin. Unlike the other way where you hold the frame in place, and you get a pretty nice 180 line doing it in that fashion. Again, you can mark your nasal. Typically, we only need one lens, don't necessarily need both. The more the merrier, though. If you send both, we can pick the one that looks like the better shape. All right, so lastly, how to measure the distance between lenses. A lot of opticians get this wrong. You don't necessarily just want to use your bridge measurement. This is often just cosmetically how wide the bridge is, not necessarily the distance between lenses. If you get this measurement wrong, and we do not have the frame here, the pupillary distance will be off and easily outside of ANSI standards. So here we go. This is how you do it. You find the closest portion of the lenses. You don't want to measure up here where the bridge is, and on the case of this one, it's going to measure wider than it actually is. We're going to measure down here where the closest point is between these two lenses. That's what the DBL is. So I'm going to tilt it to me here. So if I go to the frame edge, it looks like it is 18. Now, the tip on the xyl acetates, if you go to the frame edge, the lens actually sits down in a bevel, about another 0.5 millimeter per eye. So if you measure 18, you're actually going to record until the lab 17 because of how far it sits down in this bevel. On a xyl acetate, it's about an extra millimeter. So this bridge here of 17 was actually accurate on this one, but never assume that. This one, I measured 18 to the edge of the xyl acetate frame. I subtract 1 millimeter total because of how far the lenses sit in that V-bevel, Haida bevel, and we've arrived at 17. You then will mark it on the lens there. You can obviously put a slip of paper in when you send it to the lab as well, but I usually like to make it a habit of immediately writing it on the lens before I forget it, what that DBL measurement is. Briefly, while I have you, if you're measuring a frame like this is a Tensolite. It doesn't sit inside of a bevel like that xyl. I can physically see the edge of the lens on a lot of semi-rimless. So you just measure lens to lens on these ones. I'm getting 16 is all on this particular one, but don't subtract 1 off of every frame. It's usually xyl acetates or potentially deep regular metal bevel frames. You might want to take a little bit of the measurement off, or again, your pupillary distance will be off. Thank you.